Hi, everybody. You might be approaching the end of your financial year, and it's the perfect time to get your Sage 50 accounts in order. The year end process itself is simple. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned pro or if it's your first time, it's just a few steps in the wizard. But before you dive in, there are some important checks and housekeeping tasks that will just make everything run smoothly. Things like archiving your company data just keeps it organized and improves performance. We'll show you how to create an archive and why it's a good habit. Then there's backing up your data, which is essential before making any changes, and we'll share best practice just to ensure your backups are reliable. And avoid accidental postings into a closed period by setting a lock date. It's quick to do and it saves headaches later. We'll also guide you through the year end wizard as well, step by step, so you can complete the process with confidence. If you need to tidy up old or unused records, we'll show you how to do that as well in our Delete Your Records webinar. And then we'll also cover how to clear the audit trail. It can help speed things up, and we'll explain when it's appropriate and how to do that safely. So to help you to prepare, we're hosting a series of live webinars throughout January and February. These sessions will give you practical tips and demonstrations so you feel confident about your year end and keep your accounts in great shape. Don't miss this opportunity to start the new year with clean, organised data and peace of mind. Make sure you reserve your spot today at sage.co.uk/webinars, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Hi everyone, it's that time again when you might be starting to think about your year end. The year end process itself is straightforward. It's a simple wizard that includes a few options. However, before this, there's the preparation stage, ensuring you've posted everything, and of course, it involves running reports. But do you understand your reports and also the opportunities that you have to develop them? Ensuring they're accurate, but also that they provide you with a correct level of detail. Throughout January and February, we're running a series of live webinars to help develop your knowledge and understanding of the management reports available in Sage 50 accounts. We'll be starting with the basics, understanding nominal records and the structure of the nominal ledger. This is also ideal if you need to create new nominal codes. Following on from this, we'll examine the chart of accounts, looking at all aspects, including adding new layouts and editing existing ones. Our attention then turns to the management reports themselves, the trial balance, the profit and loss, and of course the balance sheet. We'll explain how to run them, what they show, and most importantly, how the figures calculate. We want you to be confident. On the management report session, one of the most common scenarios we're asked about is where you haven't yet run your year end, but need to generate a profit and loss report for your next financial year. We've got your back with this and have a specific webinar that explores the options you have available, whether it's running reports for your new financial year or even a previous one. The last webinar in the series looks at reconciling your age debtors and age creditor reports at year end, ensuring that the balances agree with the figures on your trial balance and the balance sheet. Of course, this could be done at any time, such as part of your month-end process. So come along and we'll demonstrate what to check and how to run them to ensure everything agrees. If you'd like to attend any or all of these sessions to help develop your knowledge and boost your confidence, then simply head along to sage.co.uk/webinars and register for your free place. These, along with loads of other topics, including how to run your year end, are available. See you soon.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael. I'm going to be your host for this morning's session. Today we're looking at obviously Sage 50 accounts. We're looking at the management reports. So there's 3 key reports that you have available in your software. So the trial balance, the profit and loss, and the balance sheet. We'll be spending about 45 minutes looking at those today. If you've never really touched them before, maybe you're new to accounting, then hopefully you're going to feel a little bit more confident. Some of you will be very experienced in this area though. You might just be coming along and actually you never know, you might go away thinking, well, actually I feel a bit more, got a bit more reassurance that my understanding's right. Others, you might just think, well, actually, I knew that. So wherever you sit, hopefully you enjoy the webinar and you do feel a little bit more confident. You never know, even if you are very experienced, you might pick up a few tips along the way as well. Right, okay, just before we get stuck in, we'll cover a little bit of housekeeping, just as we usually do. So as normal, you don't need a microphone for the sessions. If you've got one, you will find it's muted automatically and you can't unmute yourself. So any questions, pop them into the questions panel. You've got both myself and Laura's on hand today, who will be assisting with those questions. So keep it busy, keep the questions coming. You may get a straightforward answer to your question. It may be a link to a help article, or if it's a bit more difficult, obviously some questions can be, might encourage you just to get in touch with our support team to discuss that in a bit more detail. Now there is a copy of today's slides. There's not much information on the slides today. There's not many of them. If you need detailed sort of step-by-step guides to what we're covering today, you will find that information in our help center. But if you do specifically want a copy of the slides, there's 2 versions, one the full color version, and the other one is what we term the print-friendly version. As usual, the session is being recorded and you will receive a link to it on your follow-up email, which you'll receive around about an hour after you finish. So watch out for that one. That also includes links to our registration page. So we've got another couple of sessions which follow on from this one, including running your management reports for your future financial year. So if you're looking beyond the end of your current financial year, we've got that one covered next week. And also we'll be looking at the age debtors and creditor reports the week after. But loads of sessions on there, including our next digital badge series. So if you are interested, watch out for the follow-up email. Have a look at that page and get yourself registered for any sessions you would be interested in attending, or free. And of course, there is a link to our recordings page as well. So again, watch out for that one. Right, let's take a look at what we're covering in today's session. So looks like quite a short agenda for today's session. So a little bit of background. We'll then get stuck in with some demonstrations, which is where we're going to spend the majority of the session today, running through what we term the nominal monthly balances, the trial balance, the chart of accounts. So a little bit of a recap on that chart of accounts. Some of you may have attended that session last week. We are repeating that session this week. I can't remember what day that's on. But if you do check out the registration page, if you're not familiar with the chart of accounts or you need a bit of a recap on it, you'll be able to get yourself signed up for that. But the repeat is definitely this week. So we'll be touching on that one, even for those of you that did attend that, a little bit of a quick reminder. We're going to touch on the profit and loss report, obviously running it, explaining what it shows, and also how it calculates, similar for the balance sheet. So if you are in that position, you produce your report, either for yourself or someone else within your business. If you're sort of challenged almost on, like, what's that figure and how does it calculate? You'll have a good understanding of that and how to get at that level of information. It might be though, after this session, you think, well, actually, I can start to see why I would want to amend my chart of accounts just to make your profit and loss and your balance sheet that bit more detailed. So you don't have to go digging for information. You provide that on the core report itself. Touch on a couple of common questions towards the end. Obviously, we'll try and pick yours up along the way as well. And then just right at the end, explain a little bit more about the additional support. And if there's anything outstanding, I'll try and join in with those as well, although we will be trying to pick them up as we go. And we'll see how many we can answer. Not too many of you on the session. How many we got? We got 43 of you logged in this morning, so not too many compared to what we sometimes get. But keep your questions coming. We'll try our best to get through as many as we can. I'm sure there'll be some common themes coming through as well. Right, let's get started then. So we'll get stuck in, first of all, a little bit of an introduction. So obviously what we're aiming to do today is look at those 3 key management reports. It's the 3 specifically that are available from within your nominal codes ledger. So they're on the toolbar at the top: trial balance, profit and loss, and balance sheet. Now there are some variations of those as well. So you'll see the comparative profit and loss, the prior year reports. You'll find other reports within the nominal codes reports ledger area, but we're just concentrating on the 3 at the top today. The others will just be variations of those 3 standard reports. So we're going to look at how to run them, what they show, how they calculate. So again, you've got that good understanding. And also along the way, we'll be picking up on those common queries, and I'm sure you'll chip in with some, hopefully, as we go as well. So don't sit on your question. If you're not sure about something, get it typed in. Remember to click send, otherwise we don't see that. And I'll either try and include that in the demo as we're running through, or we'll maybe just stop for a moment, read out the question. I'll maybe demo that if I can, or Laura will just give you a straightforward answer. Now, I have included a link there to the Help Centre articles. Obviously, they're easy to find anyway. For management reports, just head along to the Help Centre, ch.co.uk/help. Right, without further ado, let's just get stuck into some demonstrations. So I'll share my screen. Find the right option. And we'll get stuck in with some demos. So we're going to start with the basics, the actual nominal codes themselves, and what we term the nominal monthly buckets. Now, I'm using a set of data which the financial year on this set of data was January 24 to December 2024. And obviously the next session where we look beyond the end of your financial year, we'll be using the same set of data just to try and ingrain it a little bit when we look at next week's topic. So we're trying to run a P&L beyond the end of your financial year. But just bear in mind, we are in this set of data is for 2024 at this stage. But if we go to nominal codes, bring up our nominal list. Remember, you can switch to analyzer mode if you prefer that. Vast majority are in list view. And what we're going to do is I'm going to bring up one of my sales accounts, so 4,000. I'll just switch some columns back on as well. Right, so this is what you're going to see. You might actually have a budgets column as well in your set of data if you're just on the standard budgeting method. But it's these first 2 columns that we're interested in within the nominal record, the month and the actuals column. Now, the month will essentially mirror your financial year. So down here, you've got BF or brought forward, which basically anything prior to the start of your financial year. You've then got the months of your financial year. Obviously, mine runs January through to December. Obviously, if yours runs, let's say, April through to March, which is a common financial year, it will reflect that in that first column. You've then got what you term a future. So basically, anything beyond the end of your current financial year. And then you've got a total. Now, the actuals column provides those monthly balances. So as you enter transactions and you post it to, say, this nominal code, the transaction will contribute towards that balance. So these monthly balances, sometimes called, some people refer to them as monthly buckets, nominal buckets. There's a few different descriptions for them, but they're just basically your monthly balances. So we'll just calculate as you enter transactions. So you can see at the moment, there's nothing in August of 2024. So what I'll quickly do, if I just close out of that and just pop into customers, and it doesn't matter which customer I choose, but we'll do a batch invoice. And I'll make sure I pop that into August 2024, so it goes into the right month. Call it services, and we'll do, let's say, £1,000 plus VAT. Now I'll do a secondary one as well. So I'll do it for the second customer. do it for a slightly different date. So we'll do, let's say, the 12th of August, 2024. Pop a reference in as well, just so we can see that. Same nominal code, just date and nominal code is the important bits here for what I'm demonstrating. Actually, I'll change the description of that one. We'll go products. Let's try and type that right. And I'll do a different value this time. I'll just say 250 plus VAT. So you've got 1,000 plus VAT for the first line, 250 plus VAT for the second line. I'm just going to save that. Right, now if we go back to nominal codes, I'll just bring up the nominal 4,000 again. At this time, we'll see that we do have a balance in August. So a lot of the calculation is done for us when we run our management reports. These monthly balances, whatever you want to call them, nominal buckets, etc., these monthly balances they basically provide the building blocks for your monthly management report. So the trial balance, the profit loss, and the balance sheet. So it's not having to look at individual transactions when we run the standard management reports via those three icons at the top of the list. It'll just basically add up these monthly balances. So you might have 1,000 transactions keying into or contributing to a specific month. It doesn't need to look at that. It can just look at these monthly balances because the calculations behind the scenes is nearly all done. So when we come to run a management report, we're going to start with the trial balance in just a moment. We're going to specify when do we want to run that report up to. Now, the likes of the trial balance, if we were to say, why should we want that to run that up to August? What it's going to do is it's going to add up all these individual monthly balances for the nominal code. And it does that for every nominal code. And if there is a balance, it'll include it on the report, whether it's a debit or a credit. But it's the key is a lot of the calculation is done for you. We're just going to save any changes there. I don't think we made any to the actual record itself. But that's the nominal records. Obviously, within each nominal record, doesn't matter which code you go into. If we just pop into this one, for instance, this one, it's a balance sheet code for plant and machinery, one of my fixed asset nominal codes. So we got a brought forward balance. We've got a balance actually in December as well of 2024. Nothing entered beyond the end of 2024 for this specific nominal code. It just adds them up, gives you that total at the bottom. Right, okay, let me just close out of that. Nikki, you were just asking about sort of making my screen slightly larger. I can't, my resolution is really, really low on my laptop. So it's really low to make things as big as possible. So apologies if you can't see that. You should be joining, you should have an option on your toolbar though, I think at the bottom, just to make it go full screen. I think you've got the photo icon on your toolbar at the bottom. So give that a go. Right, okay, let's start with the first of our management reports then. So we're going to start with the trial balance. So just going to preview the reports as we go, obviously just so you can see them. It'd be pointless me sending it to the printer. And when we run that report, the only thing we're really prompted for is when do you want to run that report up to? So what period do you want to run up to? Now, don't get confused by these numbers at the beginning. It's not the 10th of October or the 11th of November. It relates to the month of your financial year. So in my case, month 1 will be January. So we got brought forward, which would essentially look for anything prior to the start of the financial year, those brought forward balances. And then you just choose the appropriate month. So let's say August 2024. Just okay that. So as I mentioned, the report is incredibly quick to generate. If you were to run other reports where it needs to look at individual transactions, if you've got thousands and thousands of transactions, you can probably guess it's going to take a bit longer. Let's zoom in so you can see this one a bit clearer though. So this is the trial balance. So we've got all our debits and credits. Now the only thing it really shows on here, obviously the date and time when I've run it, it's got the page number at the top, got your company name, the name of the report, and the criteria that you specified. So the only thing I specified, when am I running it up to? Now the report itself, you've got a list of nominal codes. You've got the description of the nominal code, and then you've got the balance against it, indicating whether that's a debit or a credit. And if we scroll down, mine just about goes on to 2 pages. So right to the bottom, you've got a total debits and a total for your credits. And as the title would suggest, trial balance, it should balance. So the total debit should always equal the total credits. There may be other reports where, like sort of a departmental trial balance, for instance, or the potentially other reports as well, where maybe the trial balance doesn't balance. But this one should always balance. If it doesn't balance, you should be checking your data. It would probably indicate you've got something fundamentally wrong in your account, so you would probably expect it to detect errors in that particular instance. But it should always balance. Now, if you go back up to the top, I'm a bit bothered with my scroll bar today. Right. Now, if we just look at that sales account that we were looking at a moment ago where we entered those 2 additional transactions. Now we'll see when you preview this report that in this case, the values are in blue. Now, what that means is if I find that, so it's this figure here, make sure I've got the right one, yeah. So 179,076 pounds and 103, and 3 pence, get carried away there. You see it's in blue. So when it's in blue, it means it's what we term drillable. It means I can click on it to drill down to the next level. So if I'm looking at that trial balance and thinking, well, I've got a balance against that nominal code, where does it come from, or it's higher or lower than I was expecting, I can click on it. When I do that, what we get is we get another report generating in the background. So it opens a new tab within this. I can still toggle back to the trial balance, but it opens a new tab. Does mean I have to zoom in again. But essentially it runs another report on the figure that I clicked on to give you more detail. So in this case, it runs the nominal activity report for me. So in this case, it's run it for, I clicked on the value against nominal 4,000. So it's telling me it's nominal code 4,000. I've got the date range there. So, excuse me. In this case, start of the financial year up to the end of the month I run that trial balance for. And it's including all transactions. So if I need that, I've gone very quickly from the trial balance, top level figure for the relevant period, down to, right, this is the list of transactions that make up that value. Now you can print them out, you can export them, you can send the information to Excel, whatever you want to do at that point. But you can very easily, if you're looking at that trial balance and you are wondering where the figure comes from or how it calculates, just click it, you've got that detail. And again, obviously you can just continue clicking on figures. So plant and machinery, that very first one, 200,000 I've got there. Give it a click. Again, it'll just open a new tab at the top. I'll zoom in so you can see that a little bit clearer. So again, it'll run it for the same date range. It's running it for that one nominal code only. The only thing on this one, it's got a brought forward balance only. So no transactions in the 2024 financial year, just a brought forward balance for that specific nominal code. Right, let's close out of that one. Any questions on that? If not, what we're going to do is we're going to move up next onto the chart of accounts. Now, again, we obviously ran that detailed webinar last week, running it again. Can't remember what day this week, but we are doing the recap this week. So again, if you haven't signed up, I think it's tomorrow, but maybe check that on the registration page. So if you're not that familiar with the chart of accounts, do get yourself signed up. Just as a bit of a reminder though, your chart of accounts, so this option here, it's not used by the trial balance, but it is used by the other two management reports, the profit loss and the balance sheet. And just as a reminder, it basically provides the structure for those reports. So the chart of accounts determines which nominal codes are picked up and which ones are grouped together, etc. So if we edit our chart of accounts, you can have more than one depending what your report is going to be used for and how much level of detail you want. But if we quickly edit the chart of accounts just to act as a bit of a reminder, and you can see on the profit loss in the sales section, our first description there is product sales, and it goes 4,000 to 4,099. So it's telling me if I generate a profit and loss using this specific chart of accounts layout, what it will try and do is when you produce a P&L, it will try and calculate this product sales figure, and it will add up all the relevant balances in this nominal range. So all the nominal codes that exist within the range 4,000 to 4,099. And this is something that I think after this session, you'll probably start thinking about, well, actually, maybe I do want a much more detailed chart of accounts. So you would have saw in the chart of accounts demo where we had some ranges which were just picking up single nominal codes. You might want that level of detail on your P&L, and maybe you don't want to drill down to find that information. You want it so it shows the balance against nominal code 4,000 by itself. So you can get at that. It's on the standard report. You don't need to do anything else to get at that information. But at this stage, we've got product sales at its nominal 4,000 to 4,099. And you've got loads of other ranges, different descriptions. Balance sheet works pretty much the same way. It's got ranges with a high and a low value. Caroline, I'll come back to your question in a moment. So Caroline's just asking, in fact, we'll quickly pick that up now while we've got a little bit of time. So Caroline was just asking about what about the totals at the bottom of the report? Why are they so different? So if we just do that again, we'll quickly go back into the P&L. That's not the P&L, the trial balance. I'll run it for the same period again. Just okay that. So the figure we were looking at, it was nominal 4,000, so the 179,000. So Caroline was just basically asking, what does it mean when the totals at the bottom are different? Right, first of all, you've got an account balance at the top. I'll zoom in so you can see these. First of all, you've got the account balance at the top. Now this one isn't date sensitive that it shows. Will it let me? If I just drag that out of the way I'll just drag it on my other screen and see how I can scroll down. So if we go to 4,000, so this one here, you'll see that the balance, again, when you're looking at your nominal list, it's not a date sensitive balance, that one. So if you've got transactions into the future, beyond the end of your financial year or whatever you've entered, that's the balance against that nominal code. If we go back to the report, That's the balance that that one shows. Scroll to the bottom. Oh, it's a few pages, this one. Let me just drag the slider, even though it's playing up. We'll get onto page 10. So we got some totals at the bottom. So first of all, you've got your, this total here, going to be my total debits, the 550,000. And then we've also got 730,000, which is the total of my credits. And the history balance is the difference between the two. So the history balance is looking at those, essentially all of these transactions, and it's the difference between the debits and credits. So 179,000 in the credit column. Obviously, other nominal codes, you might see that difference being in the debit column. So that 179,000 is the balance on that nominal code as at the end of that period. Which, if we go back to the trial balance, remember we run this one up to the end of August 2024, we've got that balance there. So as you can see, just one click and you've got that breakdown if needed. Hope that makes sense there, Caroline. Right, back to the profit loss. So we quickly covered the chart of accounts there. So again, summarizing it, it provides the structure. It's telling the software when we run the profit and loss of the balance sheet, which nominal codes need to be picked up, added together, etc. Now, when we run the P&L report, I'll just preview it. So we get two prompts on the criteria. One is the date range, which I'm just going to accept that. Again, it's defaulted to my full financial year. So month 1 to month 12 of 2024 on this set of data. And which chart of accounts do we want to use? So if you've got more than one structure, you can choose. But I'll just leave it set to number 1, which is the one we were looking at. And we'll just OK that. All right, let's zoom in again. Again, you'll see when you preview, everything's in blue, meaning that it's drillable. We'll come on to that in a second. So again, we got our date and time, we got our page number at the top, we got our company name, we got the name of the report, and again, we've got the report criteria section. So you from and to, and which chart of accounts you've used. Gives you that little bit of traceability if someone says, right, this report, can you run it again? So you know what to specify. Now, for a profit and loss, we've got our sales section. We've got our subtotals. I'll come back to the period and year to date in a moment. And if anyone's sitting there thinking, well, why are the figures the same? I'll explain that in a moment as well. So we've got our sales section broken down. We've got our purchases section broken down with a subtotal. We've got our direct expenses, again, broken down with subtotal. And then you've got your gross profit stroke loss calculation. So your sales minus any purchases minus any direct expenses gives you your gross profit or loss. So one when you see them on Dragon's Den and they're thinking, what's your gross profit or loss? And they go, no, that's where that figure comes from. You've then got your overhead section. It's probably your biggest section on your P&L, probably the most detailed section, most figures in there. Up to you, obviously, how detailed you make that. But again, you've got that subtotal. And then at the bottom, you've got your net profit stroke loss. So get essentially your gross profit stroke loss less any overheads, because your net profit loss. Now you might have another section potentially. Depends if you've used the taxation section. If you have, then what you will have is it'll say net profit stroke loss before taxation. It'll then list the taxation, a bit like this sort of section here, it'll list it in blue, etc. Value, subtotal, and then you'll get a further total that says net profit stroke loss after taxation. Right, now let's get back up to the top. We're going to have a look at how these figures calculate. Now, yes, on mine, the figures are the same in both the period and the year to date, and I'll explain why in just a moment. But let's talk about how the period column calculates first of all. So when we run the report, obviously we've chosen the chart of accounts, which provides that structure. We're also choosing our date range. So when we run this report, what the software is going to do, it's going to look at your chart of accounts, and obviously it'll go through each of the sections in turn, even though it's almost instantaneous. It'll look at the sales section. It'll say, right, well, within the chart of accounts, in the sales section, the first description was product sales, and the range was 4,000 to 4,099. So it'll look at all of the nominal codes in that range, and it will look at each of the records in turn, and it'll say, right, in the actuals column, they're the figures I need to add up. And for the period column, it will add all those monthly balances up for whatever period you've specified. So in this case, month 1 to month 12. So if you think about product sales, it was 4,000 to 4,099. If we went through all of those nominal records individually, sat there with our calculator, adding up months 1 to month 12 for all of the nominal codes in that nominal range, added them all up, this is the figure we're going to get. So period is always from month 1 up to the end of whatever period you specified. Sorry, the period is always whatever period you specified. I'm going to change it in a moment. Year to date, got the same figures in this instance. Year to date calculates in pretty much the same way, but it will always run from month 1 up to the end of the period you specified, month 1 to 12 in this instance. So just to show you that one again, I'm going to run it again. So just preview that one. I will choose August only this time. And if I just quickly run that, not be as much on the report this time. But you can see this time the figures have changed. So the period column, still using the chart of accounts, still using the product sale, it's looking at that range 4,000 to 4,099. It's adding up all the monthly balances, but this time it's only doing it for the period we specified. So it's running it for month 8 only in this instance. So it's calculating £1,250, which was those 2 transactions I entered a little bit earlier. Year to date, obviously a lot higher, the values. So remember, year to date, it always runs from month 1 up to the end of the period is specified. So we're getting a proper year to date figure. So month 1 in this instance, up to and including month 8. That's where those figures are coming from. And that's the difference. Period is from whenever you specify to whenever you specify. Year to date from month 1 to the end of the period you specify. So in this case, this is month 1 to 8. This is just picking up month 8 only. Now remember, the figures are drillable. So I click on that figure in the year-to-date column, 193,833.59. It will drill down. Now this is similar to drilling down on the trial balance, but it's got 2 stages when we drill down on the profit and loss. First of all, it drills down on the product sales value, and it's saying, right, when you've drilled down, these are the nominal codes that are contributing to that value. So you can see in the period column, only nominal code 4,000 is contributing to that 1,250. Whereas year to date wise, so month 1 to month 8 in this instance, these 3 nominal codes are contributing a balance. And if you're looking at that thinking, well, you might look at yours and think, well, actually, I wasn't expecting this figure to be as high, or where did it come from? How is it calculated? Again, we can drill on it. We can click it. So this shy of 8,500, we click it. This time it's going to run the nominal activity report. So similar to what we had on the trial balance, it runs the nominal activity for that one nominal code. for the relevant date range, and it will list the transactions. And again, probably a bit more obvious this time, Caroline. You can see it a bit clearer this time. You can even add some of them up. Probably make a bit more sense. And we can see we've got a list of transactions that make up that overall balance of the 8472.51. So again, just reiterating those totals, £100 of debits, and then we got just over £8,500 of credits. History balance being the difference between the debits and credits, and it's either going to be in the credit column or the debit column. So the key to the report, when you're looking at your P&L, is period as calculates, again, chart of accounts. So some nominal codes might be grouped together. If you edit your chart of accounts, it might be a bit more detailed. So I'll just show you with a detailed chart of accounts what that's going to look like. So some of you may remember this one from the chart of accounts demo, where we had all the sales section, the 4,000 to 4,000, 4,001, 4,001. They were all listed as separate ranges. Just do it for the same period. So again, what we can see now is on the P&L, rather than it just being called product sales and showing one figure with a number of nominal codes grouped together, what we now see on the standard P&L report is we see that breakdown. Now I've got my nominal codes split by region. So I've got 4,000 is called Sales North, 4,001 is Sales South. So it's showing you the difference. It's showing me that greater level of detail. And this is one of the reasons why you might start thinking, if you understand your P&L, right, this is why I'm going to go back and start amending the chart of accounts to get that added level of detail. Again, if you've got any questions for myself or Laura, keep them coming. Nikki, you're just asking there, is there a webinar on how to create a P&L? Really just what we're looking at today, how to run the P&L. The profit and loss report itself is just a standard report, comes with the software. There's not one on how to design one within the report designer, for instance. There's a few other options available with regard to P&L. There's a few different variations of it. Again, we're not covering that in this specific session though. Right, let's quickly move on to the balance sheet. And the balance sheet, if you understand the P&L, it's pretty much the same. There is a subtle difference. We'll quickly run that one. So again, when we run that, it gives me the same options, criteria-wise. What period do you want to run it for? And which chart of accounts do you want to use? I'll just accept that. Right, let's zoom in. So similar sort of layout. You've got your descriptions, you've got a period column, you've got a year-to-date column. So the balance sheet's going to obviously traditionally starts with your fixed assets. You'll have them listed. Subtotal. You've got your current assets. Again, subtotal. You'll have current liabilities, again with a subtotal. You've then got a further subtotal, current assets less current liabilities. You have a further subtotal, total assets less your current liabilities. So your fixed plus your current assets minus your current liabilities. You've then got a further section, long-term liabilities. Again, you might have a breakdown of options within there. I've only got the one in my case. And again, you'll have that final sort of subtotal, total assets less total liabilities. Now, your total assets less your total liabilities should equal the total that you have for capital and reserves. You might have renamed it from capital and reserves to something else. But generally that total assets less total liabilities that balance there will equal that. If it doesn't, you want to be checking your data. Also, check your chart of accounts as well. Make sure there's no errors in your chart of accounts, as that can cause problems as well. Right, let's just go back up to the top. Now you'll see this time when I run that report, and I run it for the full financial year. Remember on the P&L, when we first did that, both the period and the year to date, they were equal. Well, they're not this time. Now the period will still calculate in the same way as the P&L. It's as per whatever period you specify. So when we run the report, it's going to look at the chart of accounts. It's going to say, right, within fixed assets, first description, plant and machinery, what is the range of nominal codes that we need to include in the calculation? And then it will look at your date range, look at all of the nominal codes in that range, look down the actuals column, and it'll add up the totals for whatever period you specified. So in this case, period is looking months 1 to 12. If there is a balance, it includes it on the report. Year to date, slightly different to the way that the P&L calculates. Remember, P&L was from month 1 up to whenever you specify. With it being a balance sheet, you're going to have assets and liabilities which are going to be brought forward from a previous financial year. So that actuals column for your P&L reports, you're likely to have a brought forward balance. If you've got a bank balance, it doesn't just disappear at the end of your previous financial year. It's still a balance. If you've got assets, they still have a value, whatever that end of year balance would be. So that will be the brought forward balance for what is your current financial year. So year to date for the balance sheet always runs from brought forward up to the end of the period you specify. So in this case, it's brought forward up to and including month 12 of the current financial year. So it's subtle difference in the way that they calculate. P&L is always from month 1 in year to date. Balance sheet always from brought forward up to the period you specify. That's the only difference. Still working in pretty much the same way. It's looking at your chart of accounts, looking at those ranges. What nominal codes do I need to pick up? And it's looking at the nominal codes within that range, looking at the actuals columns of each one, adding up the relevant months, adding them together. If there is a balance, it includes it on the report. Victoria, you mentioned there what should sit under long-term liabilities. I suppose it's anything that you would normally regard as a long-term liability. So something that I suppose probably items that are going to be paid or you're going to be liable for beyond the end of your current financial year. It would be regarded probably as a long-term liability, but it's up to you to determine that. Maybe a current liability for one business might be regarded as a long-term liability. It just depends, I suppose, on when it would become due. That's more just I suppose, more of a classification, that one. Now that does bring us towards the end of the demos. If you've got any final questions, please pop them in there. We'll try and pick them up. I'm going to preempt some of that, and I've got a couple of questions on my slide. So just before anyone quickly asks these, I'm going to preempt them. So going back to question 1, always get asked this: can I amend or customize the structure of your P&L report? Yes, it's all to do with the chart of accounts. The design of the report itself, no, that's pretty much fixed. But which nominal codes, the descriptions, sort of the grouping of the nominal codes, what I picked up where, then yes, you can amend your chart of accounts, but you can't edit the report itself to change the look and feel of the report. The other common question we get is, I haven't yet run my year end, but I need to run a P&L for what will be my new financial year. Can I do that? Yes, a couple of options for that, and that's what we're going to be covering in next week's session. If you haven't yet signed up for that one, do check it out when you get your follow-up email. Right, again, any final questions, quickly pop them in there. We've got Laura, remember we've got myself and we've got Laura on hand as well. Kept her busy, quite busy this morning, I should say. So keep them coming. We'll try and pick up as many as we can before we actually end the webinar. If anyone wants a copy of today's slides, those are available to download while you are on the session. But remember, the detailed information, you'll find that in the Help Centre. So loads of webinars. Our timetable currently runs up to the end of March. It also includes our next digital badge series, which we're going to be looking at product invoicing. So if you are interested in learning more about them, do check that out. Get yourself signed up for those. They'll start right at the beginning of March. We've got a couple of sessions each week. We'll be repeating them, those 2 sessions the week after, along with the next 2 new topics. And of course, there are quiz sessions at the end as well. But get yourself signed up. If you can't make it along, we do make the recordings afterwards. But you do have to attend the live sessions if you do want to qualify for that badge. Now, I've included some information on the handout about the Community Hub. Great source of information, whether you want to offer advice or you're asking for advice. Loads of information on there. Free to join that Community Hub. There's a learning survey. If you get a chance, if you download the handout, do complete that. Take you about a minute, just asking you about future learning and your learning styles that you prefer. But that's on the handout, and that brings us to the end of the session. Just going to hang around for another minute, just I'll see if any questions do come through. I think we're just about up to speed on that one though. But let me quickly thank you for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed it. Again, depending where you sit on that spectrum of your knowledge of this area will determine, I suppose, how much you get out of it. Some of you will just go away thinking, well, I knew that. Great, you've got that reassurance. Others, you might have picked up a lot and you might think, actually, I need a bit more time to take that in. Remember, you will receive an email in about an hour's time. It will include a link to today's recording. If you want to work through that again at your own pace, just watch out for that. There will be a survey pop-up as you leave today's session. If you can take a minute to complete that, it'd be greatly appreciated. Share your thoughts, ideas. If there's anything you think we could improve about the webinars, topics you'd like to see covered, anything and everything, pop it on there. We always love reading those comments to see if we've hit the mark or not. So that should pop up as you leave. If you can do that, that'd be greatly appreciated. Right, let's see what else we've got. Margaret, you mentioned there are service invoices, including in the badging webinar. Not this time. We've concentrated on products, so we can cover more options such as discounts, etc. So we've prioritized those this time round. Service invoices, obviously, we've covered separately before, not as a badge, but there are recordings for that one. Right, okay, we'll end the webinar just at that point. Apologies if we didn't get a chance to pick up your question. If you get a chance, if you've still got an outstanding question, if you want to just get in touch with us, you can reply to any of the webinar emails. So whether that's a reminder, your registration email, or the follow-up email, you can reply to any of those. Just click reply, it'll come to our team mailbox, and we'll try and pick that up for you. If you need to speak to someone, just get in touch with our support team. But we'll end the webinar at that point. Thanks for coming along. Do complete the survey, and hopefully we'll see you on the next session. Many thanks.